What's going on, everybody? Who's ready for a little tidbit of tea? So the internet is going a little cray-cray because we've now heard that James Kennedy has been reunited with Graham Cracker. I believe it's a Labradoodle, Golden Doodle. It's a doodle. It's some sort of doodle. But I'm not sure if it's a Labradoodle or a Golden Doodle. It's a little doodle, and it's real scruffy, or not scruffy, but it's got a lot of the curly hair. It's a cutie. He is a cutie. But anyway. So TMZ reported that Raquel Leviss had dumped her dog Graham. They call him Graham Cracker. I think is Graham Cracker his full name, I think. Anyway, TMZ reported that she dumped Graham at a shelter, right? Apparently the dog was having some behavioral issues, specifically issues with biting. Okay. I guess he's not a puppy anymore because he's at least a few years old now, because they got him back in 2018, 2019, pre-pandemic for sure, because we saw him on Vanderpump Rules. Remember, they had the puppy party. Stupid. Remember, they had everyone bring their dogs over to meet their little puppy, which now in retrospect, I'm curious how old that puppy was. Like, I have to go back and watch that episode because I have so many thoughts. Now that I have a puppy of my own, he's 5 months. Now that I have a puppy of my own, I have a lot of thoughts. I don't think I would have a puppy party with a bunch of people and their dogs in my apartment. No, thank you. Anyway, apparently Graham was having biting issues, and so they decided that they were going to take him to a shelter, or at least that's what was reported by TMZ. Well, now Raquel's mother, Rocky Bang Bang, Mama, Mrs. Rocky Bang Bang, she's now coming out saying that they didn't just dump the dog. Apparently, because Graham was having such biting issues, he bit her really hard all the way down to the bone, and she had to go to the doctor. And so she claims that they tried training the dog and that Raquel tried to take the dog to behavioral classes, but the dog wasn't getting any better. I guess the dog wasn't really being receptive. We'll get into that in a second because I have thoughts and feelings. So they ended up taking the dog to a shelter. They ended up finding the dog another home, but then that family ended up returning Graham as well because they were like, oh, he bites and we don't like that. Why get a fucking dog if you're going to complain about a dog being a dog? It's an animal. It needs training. It needs love. It needs guidance. That's like saying, oh, I got a child from a shelter and then was upset that the child was just running crazy, eating sugar and writing on the walls. You have to provide structure. It's a creature. It's a living being that you have to care for. I just don't get how people are like, let me get a dog. Oh, 2 weeks later, like, okay, never mind. Let me give it back. Like, that's not how the world, like, it is how the world works. It's not how the world should work. Anyway, that family returned Graham too. I believe they didn't even have the Graham for that long. But Mrs. Rocky Bang Bang, she did show us a photo of the bite. And listen, the bite is really bad. It is pretty graphic. It was a pretty big bite, right? But I have questions because initially after looking at that, I was like, whoa, that's a really bad bite. But at the same time, I was like, I highly doubt that he just randomly decided to bite her like that out of nowhere with no provocation. That's not saying that she was antagonizing the dog, but the dog had to have had some bad behaviors that he was continuing that wasn't being corrected, number one. And number two, a dog's not randomly going to bite like that for no reason. There had to have been something that provoked that or instigated that. I don't know if there was some sort of like, I mean, I just don't know. The bite was too big and too deep for it to be just a little nip, right? I don't know what could have caused that, but I was just like, there's no way that was a random out of nowhere bite and the dog just, whatever. But listen, a dog needs constant training, discipline, structure. Without that, like, the dog's not going to get better. The dog's not going to progress, right? But that's not the dog's fault. It's a dog. It's the fault of the owner. Unfortunately, I think Raquel's just the kind of girl that thought that it was cute to have a dog, but didn't actually provide any stability for the dog, didn't know how to be responsible or to care for the dog. Maybe James was a lot more helpful at the beginning, but also I'm learning dogs go through phases. I know Ariana said that, the dog did have a lot of behavioral problems. So, I think training is something that should have come a lot sooner. Raquel's mom, Mrs. Rocky Bang Bang, seems to claim that Raquel did send the dog to behavioral classes. But again, you can't just blame the dog and get rid of the dog. That's a responsibility that you take on. And then rehoming a dog doesn't help either because it only makes matters worse because that provides less stability for the actual animal. It's a living, breathing creature, you guys. Like, that's the part that, like, blows my mind. To me, it's interesting because so obviously I have my dog. I have Sky, right? Skywalker. He's now 5 months. And I've talked to many trainers because I was considering getting him trained professionally. And then I was like, you know what? No, let me actually work on some of these trainings at home. You can go on YouTube. There are apps that you can use. Lots of different, Instagram accounts, YouTube accounts that you can look at, training tips, learning about, the inner psyche of your dog, all of that sort of stuff, right? And so I feel like you have to be constantly, especially in the puppy phase, because they do go through different phases. I'm learning that they have like a preteen adolescent phase in like the 4 to 5 to 6 months where they try to be a little rebellious. We're going through that phase right now. We're working through it. We're retraining. But that's why it's so important to consistently be training and working with your dog on a daily basis. And when I talked to a lot of different trainers, they all said that the training is not for the dog necessarily. The training is for the owner, which I found interesting because when I would call trainers and talk to them, I was like, listen, I know we're going to go through like a session or a series of classes with you, whatever. I get that. I go, but I want to learn how to train the dog at home. I want to learn what I'm supposed to be doing at home. And I think too many people go to training, they dump the dog and they're like, hey, fix my dog. But if you're not constantly implementing what the trainer has taught the dog at home, the dog's just going to break all the bad habits and go right back to the dog that it was before. Again, you need to be a responsible pet owner. Otherwise, don't get a fucking dog. Because all you do is you hurt the poor creature that doesn't know any better. It's not like he speaks English and can understand the words that you're telling him. Like, you have to, one, find that dog language, which is nonverbal, right? You have to find ways to communicate with your dog to understand what your dog's needs are and to correct bad behavior as it comes up. It doesn't sound like Raquel was actively trying to work on those behaviors. And then when she broke up with James, it seems like she cut all access off with the dog to James. So according to TMZ now, though, James does have Graham. He is in training, and the training seems to be working, according to the source that spoke to TMZ, which sounds like a very close source to James Kennedy or a very close source to Lisa Vanderpump. Anyway, Mrs. Rocky Bang Bang said that she had to see a doctor for the bite on her hand and that the doctor recommended just putting the dog down. 2 doctors recommended that. And first of all, I'm like, what fucking doctors are you? First of all, a doctor should not be making advice on a pet. And second of all, you don't just put a dog down. It's so interesting now being a dog owner myself, but it's just like, how is that the solution? Oh, the dog's being bad, let's just kill it? Like, how is that a real solution? Like, listen, I get it. There are dogs that have behavioral issues. There are dogs that also have mental health issues. Sometimes you need a different environment for the dog. I understand that. They did take it to a Doodle, I think it was like a Doodle humane shelter. I don't know. It was a shelter that was specific to doodles, right? So they're supposed to know how to specialize in that type of dog, that type of breed, right? However, I just feel like, I don't know, you have to keep consistent with the training and you have to, really work with the dog and find out what's going to work for them. Not every trainer is going to work. Not every behavioral program is going to work. This dog just seemed to be a hot mess, and it sounds like the dog was maybe very anxious, maybe very aggressive. My understanding, especially because Skywalker is technically a doodle. He's technically a Labradoodle. So his mom is a full breed doodle, which was a full breed Labrador. Because she's our family dog, so his mother's a full breed Labrador, and then his dad is a golden doodle, which I believe is what Raquel has. Which I think that's what Graham is, a golden doodle. And so when you have, what was my point? I had a point with this. Anyway, I don't know. I honestly, to me, hearing this and them just kind of justifying it, it just kind of breaks my heart, because it's like, I just don't understand how a solution is to either kill the dog or just to give up the dog. Even Skywalker's mom went to, I think, 4 other houses before, my mom decided to take her in. And listen, she came with a lot of bad habits. When you're constantly moving a dog around, there's no stability, and they do become very anxious and they become aggressive if you're not giving them attention, right? They do get aggressive because they become angry or they, have all of this energy bottled up inside of them if you're not actively working them out and actively engaging with them and mind stimulating them and, constantly exposing them to different environments. It's also stimulating for them. So it is what it is. You took on a living creature. That is your responsibility. I understand that there are certain circumstances where maybe sometimes a dog isn't the right fit, but I don't think this is one of those cases because they did get the dog when he was a puppy. And from what we've heard, like what Ariana said on Call Her Daddy, the dog was not well trained and was not well catered to or tended to. There was no structure or stability for him. So it is what it is. You know, I think training is more for the dog owner. So you need to have a more active role in that. But Mrs. Rocky Bang Bang claims that the shelter that they took Graham to ended up reaching out to Lisa Vanderpump and originally reaching out asking for additional help with payment to train him, which I think is weird. Why would you as a shelter reach out to Lisa Vanderpump and say, hey, can you help us pay to train this dog? It's not Lisa Vanderpump's responsibility to pay for the training of that dog. So according to TMZ, instead of paying for additional training, Lisa decided to take the dog into Vanderpump Dogs and provide the dog with a home, and that home being James Kennedy, which is also strange. Like, why was James not an initial option from the start? Why did we not think, hey, this is James's dog too? Why don't we consider maybe he'll be somebody that wants to take the dog in? Because he seemed to take him in very freely. So Lisa helped reunite Graham with James. That's when we saw him post on his Instagram story in being in Lake Tahoe. He posted a photo being so excited to be reunited with Graham. I mean, shit, no wonder Rocky Bang Bang didn't want to go to Lake Tahoe, because not only would she have to face all of the cast for fucking Sandoval, but then she'd have to face them for dumping her dog, which she did dump her dog. Let's be very clear. Or, okay, maybe we don't want to say she dumped the dog now, but she didn't. She clearly wasn't caring for the dog all throughout the duration that she had the dog. Clearly, if the dog was still having these issues and these issues weren't being addressed, I don't think that that's a responsible thing to do. So yeah, I'm going to judge her for that. I don't think she was responsible in taking care of her pet. And that's a big responsibility that I don't think she was able to properly do. And listen, I know with doodles, they jump, they can nip, especially puppies, they do nip at things. They chew on things. Like, every dog's going to be different, and you have to address each of those behavioral issues individually very early on and be consistent with it. So, yes, she dumped her dog. Don't take on a dog if you can't take care of it. It is not the dog's fault. I don't blame the dog in this situation. If anything, continuing to rehouse a dog is not going to help aggressive behavior. If anything, it's probably going to exacerbate that. So, there. That's what we got. Rocky Bang Bang, another negative point for you. You just keep winning in the news cycle, don't you? All right, guys. Really quickly, if you are in the New York area on the East Coast, I'm doing a live show with the Brav Bros, with Megan King from The Real Housewives of Orange County, and with Emily Orozco, who is the host of Housewives Nightcap for Access Hollywood. Tom Hamlet will also be in the show. He's the host of the Dumpster Dive podcast. It is going to be this upcoming Wednesday, July 26th at City Winery NYC. We do have just a very handful of tickets left. Very few tickets, limited stock. So grab your tickets now before they're gone. Go to nofilterlive.com. That's nofilterlive.com and come see us live at City Winery NYC, July 26th. If you want to keep up with me, you can always keep up with me at Just Plain Zack all over the internet, or you can follow the podcast at No Filter with Zack on the Instagram. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on your way out, and if you want the tea all up in those notifications, be sure to tap on that bell below. All right, guys, I love you. I appreciate you. New podcast episode drops this upcoming Monday, so get ready for it. Ciao for now.